Hi everyone, I'm Renee, and we're back with another episode of TBI Uncovered, a platform that allows traumatic brain injury survivors the ability to share their stories and provide awareness about TBI injuries, as well as brain injuries, brain dysfunctions, the disability community, anything associated with brain injuries, brain dysfunctions, and to provide resources to those impacted. Um, we have a special guest. I have a special guest today. I met her last year at the when I was a keynote speaker at the 15th annual Brain Injury Conference in Missouri, and we just hit it off. We've been friends ever since. And so she's very near and dear to me. So I want to join her in. Let me find. Hey, Courtnee. Hi.
Hi, Erica. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so
Well,
excited today.
Courtnee Lorraine. Hey, Joshua. Um, so I was telling people, I was like, where I met you at. It was at the 15th annual Brain Injury Conference when I was a keynote speaker last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and I remember you coming up to me, and I don't remember what you said to me, but I think you said you were inspired or something like that. And so yeah, I found out your last name, and I'm like, we're cousins. So
I know. You practically adopted me.
I definitely did. Anybody last name about them? I do. I definitely do. How you doing today?
Yeah. I'm doing good. I'm so excited for this. I am so excited, girl.
You girl, get the makeup on you.
Yes, girl. Yes. So do you. You look good. Look at you.
So how the weather?
It's very hot. Oh
It's
my,
hot.
it's so hot. Like I don't even want to go outside today. Like if
Really
you all live in Texas, you guys already know how
hot it is.
it's just it's hot. Today
Yeah.
is today is one of those days where you just want to stay inside all day. It's not you just don't want to go outside.
Okay. Okay. So like I said, we've already went over how we met or whatever, and so I was so inspired by I didn't know your story, but I knew it was something, and I'm like, oh, so I'm like, I'm curious what's happening with this girl. So it's cool to find out now. So you want to you want to introduce yourself and talk to her about yourself?
Okay, yeah, sure. So, hey everyone. I'm Courtney Walker.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm a TBI survivor, brain injury survivor. I was diagnosed with TBI woo. TBI, what is it? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I had a TBI concussion
Mhm.
and developed a form of aphasia. So that was my diagnosis from my doctor. And yeah, so a part of my story, how I even ended up having a brain injury was actually an accident at home. I was 23 years old. This was back in 2014. So it was like around February 2014. And I was home from school. And this particular day, I think I was just trying to go somewhere. And before I left, I was rushing around the house because I had to leave at a certain time. And whatever I was looking for, I couldn't find. And I thought that it might have been like in my little caddy that was like kind of underneath our island counter tabletop.
Mhm.
And so my caddy was like in between the cabinet space and a little bit underneath you know, the island. And so anyway, I'm also on the phone this way. And so I'm just rushing around and I told the person on the phone, okay, I'll call you back. I have to go. I'll call you back. Couldn't find whatever I was looking for and came up and hit my head on the corner. It was like the corner here and I hit this part of my head. So,
Wow.
but yeah, but the crazy thing is that nothing happened except I did black out for like a split second and then my sister was home, so I told her to put like ice on, to give me some ice or something. I
Mhm.
took my hair down to make sure I was not bleeding. There was no blood. So I was like, okay, good. I didn't gash my head. And I put ice on my head for like maybe 5 minutes and the headache went away. And then I went on about my day. And then I was at church with my grandmother and my sister, and my grandmother was just looking at me. She's a retired nurse, so she's been in the medical field. So she kind of noticed that something was kind of off about me, and the whole time I was in church, it was like my vision kind of got blurred, and I could see like one person at a time, but it was like everything around that person was completely blurred, and my headache came on again, and I felt really horrible. But my grandmother's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I did hit my head earlier, but I'll be fine." She was like, "Are you sure you're okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just have a headache. I might be hungry, thinking of other things." And because also too, a little bit of backstory, I was also an athlete. So an athlete, an avid dancer. So we're taught, like if you haven't, if it's not severely broken, just keep pushing it as long as you can. If you can't, go out there, then don't, but at least try. So I was just like, oh, I'm brushing it off. Oh, I'm okay. And she said, well, after church, she was like, call me, let me make sure that you made it home. So me and my sister went home. That this headache was like
Oh.
throbbing pain. And I had, oh my gosh, it was so painful. And my mom didn't know what happened. I came home. My mom was home from work and stuff. And she was like, hey, Courtney. I said, hey. I said, I'm going to bed. My head is hurting. And she's like, oh, okay. I took to a leave to kind of relieve the headache,
Right.
went to sleep. Next morning, my mom was trying to wake me up. It was really hard for me to get up. From what
Mhm.
I remember, it was just hard for me to just kind of, wake up and stuff like that. And then afterwards, my mom's like, Courtney, who am I? What's my name? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why is she asking me all these questions? This is so silly. I'm like, Mom, your name is this, blah, blah, blah. Today is this date. The president is this date. She's like, okay, I'm just making sure you're fine. She went to work. My sister, she was like, Court, it's time to get up. I was like, uh-huh. And she's like, Courtney, wake up. And it was so hard for me to like, just wake up and get up. And it
Mhm.
took me a while. And so I finally did get up. And so when I was trying to walk, I was losing my balance on the left side.
Mhm.
And it, I mean, I was just like, I felt like, I don't know, it just kind of felt like I was more in a dazed state, if that makes any sense. Like when you first wake up and you're trying to get your bearings. And I just remember I went to the restroom to try to wash my face, and I had a hard time standing up. And my
Mhm.
sister, she was like, Court, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's looking at me like, no, something is really wrong. So she was like, Courtney, just, wash your face, brush your teeth. And I was like, I can't. And she was like, huh? So, and like I said, I was losing my balance. So I slumped over forward and she caught me. She was like, Courtney, oh my gosh, what's wrong? I was like, no, well, I'm fine. What are you talking about? Because in my brain, I'm like, yes,
Oh.
I'm washing my hands. Yes, I'm brushing my teeth, my regular routine in my brain, but my motor functions were not responding, you know. Yeah, so my sister, she was like, okay. So she sat me down and she's like, here, Courtney, maybe you need to eat something. I'm right-handed. But she
Mhm.
gave me a sandwich or a piece of food
Yeah.
in my left hand. And I tried to do this, like eat this way, and I could not move. And I
Mhm.
was like, so it's not registering in my brain like, okay, you're supposed to go this way. Why aren't you moving? And so anyway, Noelle immediately called my aunt who's in the medical field, my grandmother who's a retired nurse, and she's like, there's something seriously wrong. And
Mhm.
they were asking me a series of questions, and they just told her to keep me moving until they came to the house. And so I was like trying to walk, in my living room, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it stopped.
Mhm.
And I had violent tremors, and Noelle had to hold me up. My sister had to hold me up, and she was like, oh my gosh, and I'm confused just as much as she's confused. Because I'm like, why am I shaking so much? Why can't I move? Why can't I, walk? And so I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? What's happening? And I remembered I hit my head, so I immediately had to go to the ER. And they were looking at me. They're like, "Oh, she's 23." And they're like, "Well, what do you do?" And I was like, "I'm a student." And I said, "But, I'm also an athlete. These are the activities that I do, but I can't move today." And the doctors, they had to run series of tests. I did like a EKG test. I had a MRI, a CAT scan, things like that. And my scans came out normal. And they're like, "Oh, well, it must be due to stress. You'll be fine in a week." And but then there was one doctor that was like, "No, there's something going on, and she needs, special care. She needs to go to Barnes immediately. We need to transfer for her to Barnes." And I had a second review, and they were like, "Well, no, I mean, it just might be due to stress. She's a student, she's in school, she'll be fine in a week." It progressively got worse, and I was in outpatient therapy. And then all of a sudden my memory, like certain things from my memory, it just started to like stop at some point. I could only remember from the like junior senior year of high school to college. Things of my childhood I could not remember. Certain people I couldn't really remember much. And then I started realizing, like, oh my gosh, something is really going on. I had a trouble. Developed a form of aphasia, which is it's like a language disability, and mine was kind of slight. I couldn't really understand the meaning of words or like things that were in a sentence. I didn't understand really. It's just really difficult to explain. I guess like it's like the form of words. I can't really remember. So I had to go to occupational therapy, speech therapy, and occupational speech and physical therapy. And so and it also resulted in me to not walking at all. Like I could not stand on my own. The tremors on the left side of my body were so violent. I couldn't support myself. So I had to go through extensive physical rehab. Then they started realizing like, oh, here's some other problems that are also occurring. My vision was really off as well. Things appeared further away and closer than what it actually was. Sounds, it would just like sounds were so loud to me. Lights as well. I had to constantly wear sunglasses, which was kind of cool because I love shades, and just an excuse to wear them even in the dark. It was I didn't care. I was styling. But yeah, but those were kind of things I had to do to kind of help me cope with regular life. And so anyway, moving forward, they finally got me to get out of a wheelchair to walking again, to and eventually standing on my own and working on those things with a weighted vest. And then they started helping me walk to where I didn't need the vest anymore or a rollator. And so we had to go through many extensive therapies to kind of get me back to everyday life. And so when I moved down to Texas, um, I actually work with my physical therapist down here, and he was the athletic trainer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Chicago Bears football team in the NFL. So he's seen tons and tons of concussion patients. So he automatically knew exactly what I was going through, exactly what I had. So he immediately we started my training there to get me back to my athleticism. I wanted to run again, all those different things. And so and then finally I'll say this is by year 5, I want to say. And by year 5, or in 2017, is when I finally got transferred to Barnes, met the movement disorder specialist there, and got properly diagnosed and with TBI concussion with ataxia tremors. That's what I had. So, yep. And that's
Wow.
pretty much my story. Yeah, I
That's a
mean,
lot. Like from going to not knowing to knowing to, and you said it was 3 years. I think you said last night was like 3 years or something before you
3,
actually got diagnosed properly
yes,
diagnosed.
yes,
I
it took 3 years. 3 years.
know me. So wow, that's amazing within itself. That's like mind boggling. So what were you doing during those 3 years? Like were you just like you felt weird, or like did you know something was wrong with you, or did you be like, well, what was your thought process like during that time?
Honestly, I felt very much alone. And shout out to the Brain Injury Association of America. Shout out to the Brain Injury Association of Missouri. um, I had to do research to figure out what the heck I was going through, to understand what a traumatic brain injury was. I never heard of it, and I just never heard of it. It was kind of more new to me. I never
Yeah.
knew anyone that ever went through it. I didn't even know where to turn to. And so when I did actually try to
Mm-hmm.
bring up the Brain Injury Association, my therapists were like, oh, you're fine. You're getting the same treatment here. And we're telling you what's going on. But to be honest, in hindsight, had I went, I think I would have been able to understand it more and meet more people that were going through the same thing that I was going through, and I wouldn't have felt so much alone to try to figure out, how to navigate through it. I did feel alone, but I had to really just, I relied so much on my faith in God and just like helping me through it to just kind of give me the peace to really accept what I was going through, and I understood that I wasn't going to stay in it forever. I was just determined not to uh just settle for this new illness that
Yeah.
I had. I wanted to fight through it. I wanted my old life back, and I'm sure with that I was just like I took everything one day at a time, and honestly it was the support of my family,
Mm-hmm.
friends that came over. Shout out to all my friends and family. If you guys are watching this, I love you all so much. I couldn't have made it without their support either,
Yeah.
and also my therapist, would constantly encourage me, and things like that. That really made a difference. That made such a great difference, and it made my day. So it helped me cope a lot better.
So I know you went to college. Cause I remember when I met you, you were getting an award, and I'm like, did the awards? I'm like, okay, so what's going on? So you had gotten an award, a scholarship for college. So what was that?
Hmm.
What the college experience like? What like the classes and like everything? Like, did you feel like out of place? Like, were you still puzzled? How was the college?
Um, yeah, so Uh, I have to say, back in August last year, yeah, that's when I enrolled and did one class. I only did one class just to see how I would do, because when this all happened, I was 23 years old and it was my senior year of college. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to literally even change my major.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing theater, and dance and acting and things like that, I changed it over to a Bachelor of Integrated Science degree, or Bachelor of Integrated Science degree. That's what it was. And
Right.
I was basically able to take everything that I learned in my training and things like that in the arts, and was able to kind of mold it into a degree, which was really beneficial, and it was for non-traditional students. And going back, it was overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie, it was
Mm-hmm.
so overwhelming. But I had to what is it? The office of the
Disabilities.
student office of disability, yeah, the disabilities office. I had to really rely on them to help me and get extensions on things, because I'm trying to like powerhouse through it like I normally would do, before it, and my brain was like, hold up,
Now,
pause.
it was time. It was time.
Yeah, it's like one thing at a time, or just I just needed more time, because it takes me a lot longer, to
Yeah.
process things, to process the information, to retain the information, and I had to just adjust, and so this semester, what was it, January through May, and I finally graduated this year.
Hey,
Um, yes, girl, I got that degree. Yes, and that I had to take more classes. It wasn't just one like I did back in August. I had to take all the rest of my classes, which was about 3 or 4 classes. And I'm not gonna lie, I was overwhelmed. But my teachers were very understanding. I just had to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. Can you please work with me? And they were very accommodating. So thanks to the disabilities office, they were able to make those accommodations for me. And my teachers were very understanding. So
yeah,
it
same
wasn't
thing.
too bad.
I went to college as well. I too went to the disability community, disability community, disability office of disabilities. I went And so I was at first I was like, I don't need more time. But then I'm like, well, or we got extra time, why not take it? And so I never used all the time because they give you like a time and a half. So the test is like 2 hours, they give you 4 hours. I don't need 4 hours to take a test, especially if
Yeah.
like my injury, it didn't affect my memory like that, so I could retain more information. I know certain
That's
injuries are
awesome.
I know certain injuries are different because I said I never had a problem with my memory. Thank God for that.